can be easier to connect with somebody when you feel like you have an affinity towards them or you feel like you might like them. But how do you connect because this happens often in mentoring relationships. How do you connect with someone you don't know, or maybe you don't even think you like?
So I love this question, and let's do this. So you just asked the question. I feel like this could be a perfect time. Instead of usually what we do is Q and then my answer. Let's do a Q and A and A and A and A and A. And so if everybody could take 30 seconds, I'm going to see if I can actually draw out a little answer to my question. But if everybody can take 30 seconds and answer that question for themselves in the chat, or answer the question themselves from their own perspective in the chat. So in theory, in 30 seconds to a minute, the chat will be filled with a goldmine of useful ideas and perspectives from the group, and then I'll offer my perspective. Let's actually take a minute to answer this. So Lisa, if you want to re-ask your question, and then everybody here, assuming you're not driving, please don't get in a car accident. Assuming you're not driving, go ahead, jump in the chat and answer this question as if you were the one being interviewed, and then I'll toss in my answer at the end of this timer. How does that sound?
So in the workplace and often in mentoring relationships, we've got to connect with someone we don't know, or maybe we don't even like. How do we do that? How do we connect with someone we don't know, maybe even don't like?
So I'm going to rapid fire read everybody else's responses so that I can stand on the shoulder of giants as I show you my really ridiculous picture. And this will make sense in a minute, but here is my drawing of how to interact with people you don't know or don't like. So first, finding the commonality, Naya. Find something we have in common and elevate that. You have that in common, Dennis and Naya. You both shared the same response. Mark, you also have that in common because you also said find commonalities. Share something about ourselves first to be vulnerable. Lisa, I love that because I have a good friend who I used to work with named Kalen, and he used to say that a conversation without self-disclosure is an interrogation. So, a good way to make someone not like you more is to interrogate them. And so the idea of like being vulnerable, sharing a piece of yourself and your truth, it's hard to argue when you share just something that is true for you. And I don't mean like an opinion necessarily, but like an experience that's happened to you or a perspective or the way that you grew up. Like somebody that you don't like is not going to argue with you about how your dad raised you or didn't raise you, right? It's like, that's just is what it is. It's a bit unarguable. Although I know some people that I'm sure would try. Meet over coffee first. Be curious about differences. Michelle, I love that one because I think that oftentimes we assume that connection equals commonality, and we forget that curiosity can really simply or really easily turn difference into connection. Like some empathetic curiosity allows us to take difference and like whoop, change it into a connection. So like I didn't grow up in New Jersey, but when I find out somebody did, I can either say, oh, I didn't grow up there, or I can say, what was it like growing up in Trenton, right? And I can seek a little bit more understanding there. And then, wow, there's a lot of really good perspectives. For those of you watching a recording, you just had to be here live to get the rest of the 20 responses that are really beautiful. Here's my response. I used to work for an organization called World in Conversation, and the whole premise of the group was to get people to sit down in a circle, strangers, to talk about stuff, really soft, fluffy topics like race relations, long-term conflict, politics, gender, sexuality, religion, etc., for 90 minutes. And their mission was actually to transform conflict into collaboration. And there was a quote hanging on the wall from Abraham Lincoln. There's your picture of Abraham Lincoln. There's a quote from Abraham Lincoln that said, I don't like him. I need to get to know him better. Mm. And for years, I loved that quote. I was like, oh, this is such an inspiring quote. It's motivating for me when somebody is annoying or frustrating or for whatever reason I don't like or I'm not clicking with them. I don't know them. I need to get to know them. I don't like them. I need to get to know them better. Now, just to end on a funny note, I will say that idea was shattered a bit when I saw the rest of that quote. which was in the context of, I believe, said in the context of like military. And it was, I don't like them. I need to get to know them better so that I can destroy my enemy.
Oh,
It's
boy.
like, ooh, that changes the quote a little bit. While like a humorous end, I do actually think that that is a line that we have to toe, and a reason some people may not want to be vulnerable. There is risk inherent in vulnerability, and people like who have had their trust broken or have been exploited in some sort of way in the past. The idea of being vulnerable isn't real attractive. And so, yeah, just being really mindful of that balance. So all that said, my insight would be the first part of the quote: get to know them better. If you don't like them, get to know them better. Because I think typically when you get to know people enough and enough of their contexts and some of the things that trigger you in whatever way that is, tend to fade away or get situated and put in a box of like, right. I have a friend who is amazingly loud. It is so embarrassing to go out to dinner with them. He is so loud, very, very fun. One of my best friends, but so unbelievably loud. But his father, as he was growing up, was really hard of hearing. And so he learned his decibel level just had to be up here if he wanted to be heard. And for better or worse, that just never went away. And so I feel less embarrassed when I go out to eat with him because I know that about who he is and how he grew up. I got to know him better a little bit.
Yeah, it helps you take the judgment out of it, right? It helps you take that judgment out of it. I love the concept somebody raised in the chat about being vulnerable too, because there's a concept that I often talk about, this like being the first mover. And it's sort of the opposite of the Pacific Northwest stop sign. You know what happens at a Pacific Northwest stop sign, Chad?
I don't.
Okay. So this is coming from an East Coast, a girl from the East Coast who now lives in the Pacific Northwest. At a Pacific Northwest stop sign, everybody comes up to the stop sign, no matter who got there first. Everybody comes up to the stop sign and looks at each other and goes, you go, you go, you go, you go, you go. And nobody wants to go until somebody steps on the gas and goes, and then everybody else will flip off the person who went through the stop sign, right? And so it's sort of the opposite of this move first concept, right? Of like, if you really want to kind of create connection, it's the opposite of a Pacific Northwest stop sign. It's that somebody's got to go first. Somebody's got to go first and be vulnerable first to create that connection, to create that knowing, so you can really be curious and move forward. So